Shalom. Call hello, Yahweh by Shalom Shai by Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners. And to the Aquath that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malchaamah from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago. And and I'd like to thank, all the subscribers that have given alms and things of that nature. It's much needed and much appreciated for myself and for the brotherhoods of the water. But this is a lesson. I've been mentioning this a lot for like the last week or so. So, I decided, that, or the Spirit decided that I would do this quick video on the subject matter, which is the first being last and the last being made first. All right. And I asked a young man last Saturday, who's first in this world? Well, and then what appears on the screen? Little baby Edomite. But nevertheless, with her Jake Northern Kingdom nanny, there's a lot of that going on around these parts. You just saw two examples of it walk right past the screen here. But nevertheless, who's first in the world? Well, you just look whose face is on the currency. Right? Who makes up all the policy? It's a really simple question. And as the scriptures say, they have to be they're gonna be made last, man. The first shall be last and the last shall be first. So the next logical question is, who's last in this society? All right, in America and around the world. Exactly. It's a really simple answer to that. We know who's last. So let's get some scriptures, man. This is the book of Matthew. 19th chapter and the 30th verse. And it reads, "But many that are first shall be made last, and the last shall be first." So Jacob is last in this society. So-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And of course, our scattered, family, those Israelite foreigners that are scattered among the heathen. All right? Because you don't escape the curses just because you got pale skin or whatever, or you look like a heathen. You don't escape those curses. They still get you. All right? And one of the ways that those curses are brought upon us is by acts such as, let's grab this scripture. Let's go to Micah. It's the book of Micah. Because how did the first become first? Well, the sword was their blessing, and they used that sword very well. That's in Genesis, the 27th chapter. I think it's Genesis 27 and 40, all right? But this is Micah 2:2, and it reads, "And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage." So by the taking of land and property, by oppressing people, they made themselves first. Then they set up policy to keep themselves in power. All right? Just look at all the racist laws that were created here in America. As far as, if going back to the colonial time when they were setting up laws. All the way, some of those laws were still in place up until this day. All right? Laws that allowed them to own firearms, gunpowder, own property when no one else could. All right? Laws that prevented you from taking them to court when they did some sort of wrong to you. Laws that allowed them to just be first in line for anything and everything. All right? They set policy to keep themselves in that position, which is what made them desirable, because prior to those laws, well, they weren't all that. They weren't the first choice among women, and that's historically documented. It wasn't until they established their laws that they took care of that problem. But which goes to show you, women are attracted to power, man. But this is Matthew 20 and 16. And it reads, "So the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. For many are called, but few are chosen. So even among the Israelites, you got a lot of guys that come into this thing, and then the Lord, discards them. They become disenchanted. The spirit falls off of them, which is something I pray every day, multiple times a day. I pray all the time, man, that for the Lord, please not to take that spirit away from me, to desire to do this work, man. All right. Yeah, and then once again, how is the last gonna be made last? Well, the last gotta be made first. Well, the same way that the first was made last, but our power now, it's gonna be done through Yahweh Shai when the Lord sets us up. All right, we won't have to do things like let's go to Sirach. Let's go to Sirach 10 and 8. And it reads, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit. All right, injuries and riches got by deceit. Unrighteous dealings. All right, the kingdom is translated from one people to another, man. So through crooked deals and things of that nature, they put themselves into power. All right, once again, by robbing, raping, killing, murdering, stealing, and then putting laws together that keep them in that position to where you can't challenge them. All right, that's what they did, and they still do it to this day. Hence the reason why there are American embassies all over the world. All right, they're not there. What they were there to do was to enforce the U.S. currency, to enforce the use of the dollar, to make their presence felt so that the nations wouldn't use their own currency and things of that nature, man. That was the whole purpose of that, to enforce by the sword, the threat of the sword, their way of life onto the other nations. All right, this is Mark. The 9th chapter and the 35th verse. And it reads, and he sat down and called the 12 and said unto them, if any man desire to be first, the same shall be last of all and a servant of all. All right. So ultimately, we connect this to Esau, Edom. All right. Because they have definitely displayed and proven over and over again that they desire to be the first of the nations. As a matter of fact, it says that Amalek is the first of the nations. And Amalekites are indeed Edomites, and they indeed run the world today. The Amalekites are the people that are over in the land of Israel today. Who owns all the banking system, who owns all the jewelry districts, Well, there it is, man. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. All right? And remember, Amalek is the first of the nations. I mean, they're the lead nation on the planet Earth. All right? Point blank, period, man. And how did they become that? Through crafty counsel. Through a very crafty counsel. So let's get that. This is Psalms 83. And let's start at verse 1. And it reads, keep not thy silence, O power, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O power. For lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. See, I talked about that lifting up the head in the last video. Well, Yahweh Shai is getting ready to lift up his head, man. And all this mess is getting ready to come to an end. But nevertheless, it says, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. Who are the hidden ones? Well, part of the policy of them getting in control was by relabeling us. All right, by relabeling people that they may control the narrative, that they may call you by what they desire to call you by, so that they can control the narrative, which is a very, very false narrative. All right? You know, Negro, Latino, Native, Hispanic, Mexican, Indian, you know, all those are bywords which they created so that they can control the narrative. All right? And then they attach those false names to pseudo and false science. All right? This is what they do. This is what they have done. Okay? And it says, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel be no more in remembrance. This is a very powerful group of scriptures. All right? Because it's telling you that there was a crafty council of people, a group of nations, of hills and mountains that came together to erase the name of Israel. Well, you know, and I talked about a couple videos back, the importance of Jeremiah 17:4. All right? Of Jeremiah 17:4, the importance of it. All right? Because Israel was what? Cut off from their heritage. Their name was stripped from them. Their history was stripped from them. And they forgot who they were. For generations, they weren't allowed to call themselves Israelites. That happened in Greece. Hence the reason when you get to the New Testament, when they start talking about there's no difference between the Greek and the Jew, all right, that's because those Greeks were Israelite foreigners who no longer knew what tribes they were from, because they had been forbidden for centuries to refer to themselves as Jews. You know, they just knew that they were Israelites. Or some of them, they had been separated for so long, they didn't know that they were Israelites at all. The Spirit reveals it. That's why Romans 8:16 reads the way it does. Matter of fact, let's get that real quick. Romans 8:16. And it reads, the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of power. And that's what it is, man. It's evident, because when not only did we fit the physical descriptions that were described in the Bible, the spiritual descriptions, but the physical capabilities that's described in the Bible. That's what you see in combat sport, in all sports that basically use balls, man. When Jake gets involved, Jake dominates. Point blank, period. All right? Let's go back to that Psalms 83. Right, and he got him she got this nanny speaking Spanish to this little Edomite, so he's getting all the benefits. That's how they become first, man. All right, he's gonna grow up being bilingual, and that's, you know, and that's not even his language. His language was English. But here we go. It says, for they have consulted together with one consent. This is verse Salakia, verse 4, and back in Psalms 83:4, and they have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, and that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance, for they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. And then it goes on to name the tabernacles of Edom, that's so-called white people. The Ishmaelites, that's so-called Arabs, or a particular sect of them. And Moab, those are the Chinese. And the Hagarenes, more Ishmaelites. Gabal, I'm not sure, I don't remember. Ammon are the Japanese. Amalek, well, they're the first of the chief nation of Edom. They're the chief of the chiefs, the chief. And the Philistines, which are Hamites, and the inhabitants of Tyre, which were also Hamites, and Ashur, which were those Syrians, also joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot, Selah. So these people put themselves first, man. Let's grab one more scripture. This is in the book of Luke, 13:30, and it reads, and behold, there are last which shall be first, and there are first which shall be last. So that change is coming, man. And ain't nothing that nobody on this green earth can do about it, man. So with that, I give all praises and glory and honor unto Yahweh Bashim Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak Wadash, Wa Abba Babal, and Shalom.